Alright guys, we're going to look at some exponent rules now. This is what you're looking at now. This is the yellow assignment that you got yesterday in class with the exponent laws on the front and the back. The problems that I have circled here are the ones that I'm going to go through. So 1, 6, 10, and 14. I did different ones in different classes, so I'm just doing these to make sure that everybody has at least the same thing. So starting out, the basics of the exponent laws. Some things just to begin with. Anytime you got an exponent of a 0, like we said in class, that's just going to be a 1. So you can leave it as a 1 and write it as a 1, but it's a 1. It's not really going to affect the whole thing at all. The next thing looking at this would be that there is a negative exponent. So I'm going to deal with this negative exponent next. So to deal with a negative exponent, first you got to use your fraction bar. Because what a negative exponent actually does is it moves whatever the term is. Here it's an m to the third power. That negative is going to move the variable, the m, and the power across the fraction bar. And this is going to change it to a positive. So this is very similar to, and I talked about this in some of my classes, if you're dealing with a regular equation and you have a negative, or here it's a -1, to get rid of that -1, you'd have to add 1, which means that on the other side of the equal sign, whenever you move it across, that's going to be a positive. So it was negative, now it's adding on the other side of the equal sign. See, so this was negative, now I moved it across the fraction, but still I moved it, and now that's a +3. So doing that, I'll now have 5 squared in. At this point, I'm dropping the 1. You don't need to have this 1 here. If you multiply with 1, that's not going to change anything. So divide m to the third. Now, one of the things that tripped some people up in class was whenever I was doing some of these, I went ahead and I squared the numbers. And so this would be your official star answer. That's going to be 5 squared, that's 25. So I just squared 5 and got 25. But anyway, so 0 is a 1. 0 exponent's a 1. I used the negative here to move it across the fraction, and that's finished. Sorry, this is supposed to be a 3. There we go. 6. So looking at 6, again, you're going to be able to eliminate, that's a 0 and a 0 exponent. So those are both just going to be 1s. So I don't have to worry about those. This 5, though, I can square that. 5 squared would be 25. Then I've got, there's only one a, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now I have the 2 m's. Now, the long way of doing this would be to write out 5 m's, and then to write out 4 m's, and then to say I have 5 here and 4 here. All of this together is going to be m to the 9th power. Now, instead of writing it all out and counting it all up, you can just look at this and say, I have a 5, I have a 4, I'm just going to add those up and say 25a to the 3rd power, add it up, that's going to be to the 9th. That would be your final answer for that. So again, these are multiplying, so I added up the exponents. Moving on to the next one that I have picked out here, that's number 10. I just wanted to give a better example of how to use these negatives. So this is a much more involved example on how to use the negatives here. So I'm just going to do these one at a time. Doing it all at once it's a lot to handle. So I have a -3 attached to this a to the -3rd power. What this is going to mean is that this a is going to be able to move across the fraction, just like if I were dealing with something with a -3, I would want to move it over and make it positive. So whenever I move this across the fraction, then I'm going to leave this b here for now. Sorry, it's a 4. Now that I've moved this across, that's going to be a positive, just like when I move on an equation, when I eliminate and move over, that's going to be positive. C -3rd power a squared. Okay, next piece. So now I'm going to deal with this c. That's got a -3 for an exponent. So that negative is going to make me move this up. Whenever I move across this fraction bar, I'm changing the sign of that. So now that's going to be just a plain 3. And again, the reason that this changed to a positive is because I moved it across the fraction here. Third a squared. The very last part, I'm going to kind of speed up here. B has a negative exponent. That's going to move down. Here, because you're multiplying these, you can go ahead and add those exponents up. So c is going to be cubed. There are 3 and 2, so a to the 5th. And because I moved this b across, that's going to be a +4. That would be your final answer. All right, now I'm going to go pull up that last one down here. I think it was 14. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is just to kind of illustrate how to use division here to get this worked out. I'm going to break this down to numbers, and then the x's, and then the y's. So my numbers, I have 14, 2 squared, and 2 to the 3rd power. For my x's, I have x to the 9th and x. And for my y's, I have y cubed and y cubed. Okay, now I'm going to deal with each of these kind of individually. Well, here I have a 2 and a 2. That's my base. My base is a 2, the base is a 2. So I'm going to be able to take these exponents and say, all right, that's going to be 14, and then I'm going to have a 2. I'm going to take my top number and subtract out my bottom number, and that would get me a -1. Now, the weird thing, and the reason why I usually don't do out subtraction all the time, is because, well, now because that's a negative, I'm going to have to take that and move that across the fraction and say, all right, that's really going to be 14 divided by 2 with a +1 there. See, so what happened was I was able to take, there are 2 2's, I was able to eliminate both of those. Here I have 3. And eliminate 2 of those. Now there's one of those 2's left over, and that's the one that I have here in the fraction. Moving on, so here that's x to the 1, so that would be 9 minus 1, so then x is going to be 8. So x to the 8th. Now, by the way, since my larger number is on top here, 9 is the larger number, I'm going to keep my variable in the top. If this wasn't a larger number, so here 2 minus 3, that's negative, that means I have to move it and keep it on the bottom. Here, because my 9 was greater, I could keep that on top. Keep going. Okay, now here's a good point. So 3 minus 3, that's going to be 0. So really this is going to be y to the 0 power. Now, because both of these are the same thing, it'd be the same as like 2 divided by 2. They're the same, that's going to equal 1. So what that's going to mean is, that all cancels out. This is just going to be a 1, and now I just have this to deal with. I've eliminated the y's. The y's have been taken care of. And so now, well, 14 divided by 2 would be 7, and that would be your final answer. So again, I grouped everything. I went through, I eliminated or I canceled out the 2's here. If you do the subtraction, you have to move the negative exponent. Here, subtract the 1, done. Here, those subtract down to 0, which is just a 1, and I was able to divide and get 7. All right, that's all I'm going to do for that. I'll be able to answer more questions later.